answer, it's time to worry. 'Cause I don't give a fuck about slowly changing love. I'd love to when you hold eyes in heaven, my bars and cold. I might sleep for less time, but I'd stay in this life. I give up, the more I hurry. For confession confirms your story. always wanted. When the sun comes down, my eyes on its return. I think about everything, but nothing's what I learned. I wanted to pray alone, I'll name you in this prayer. I wanted to stay alone, I'll name you. The gift that I'm choosing is a gift for changing lives. Who cares if this day proceeds through wrongness or through right? Whatever was in the lake will wash up on the shore. I found all the days I lost, but never lose no more. I see you, I see you, I see you, I see you, I see you. Thank you, David. Let's just sit, we'll waste some time on quiet street, incredible night bar. Been taught to think every choice is free. Such a wonderful night, such a beautiful street. Well, I guess this is progress. Jack and Paul this tree, but I fell right down. Incredible time, boy. I see this tree like I see them all. On a wonderful night, such a beautiful street. I guess this is my view. Lord, I feel like this monkey says I have to do the ugly days over. I make it to the sunshine. I feel right at home. Don't have a thing to share, won't even comb my hair. But in a room so nice, this screwed up life and I sit down. Is that important? Blow the goodbye test. They know that all my friends will use this time for sleep. They know the talk is cheap. I know the words you say cost more than we could pay. Why leave on today? Is that important? Why leave on today? There's a chance if all agree, and she says trust. Yeah, there was trust in what we say.
I'm here with Sean and Monte. Welcome. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Maastricht.
Thank you.
And you kicked off the tour 2 days ago, or a couple of days ago?
Yes, we've played 2 shows so far. It's a short tour. We're only playing 14
April.
shows, right?
You only play the first 4 albums, Swell albums.
Right.
What's the idea behind that?
Well, Monte and myself and Nico and John were really involved in those first 4 records. Shortly thereafter, the 4th record, too many days without thinking, I left the band, and then Monte left after the next CD and or album, and John and Nico as well sort of dissipated from there. So emotionally and physically, those are the albums that we're really connected to.
Isn't it true that within those 4 albums comprise actually the essence of what Swell is? I think.
Yeah.
I could agree with that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Isn't that true for lots of bands actually? That within the first 4 albums, they pretty much said everything.
Potentially, yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot of bands, it's the first album.
Yeah,
That's all they need.
that's all
Yeah.
they need.
And, you
And
have
then
the
there's
sophomore slump.
then there's the difficult second one, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah, sophomore slump, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think our sophomore record, in my opinion, is one of the better records. Well,
The second
but-
album.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
think so? And you guys you have always been bigger in Europe than you have been in the USA.
it's true.
How would you relate to that?
Oh, I would say one of the things is that that's just where we initially got to start, and then touring was a lot easier here as a small band. You know, distances are shorter.
Get paid.
You get paid
better.
more, I think, because there's state funding. You know, I'm sure the Dutch and all the other countries fund the club so they can afford to pay us.
And also, Europeans, in general, I guess I'm generalizing a lot, but are brought up to appreciate art more than people in the U.S. There's not really a lot of art programs, or they don't really teach art history in school unless you
Cut.
try, unless you like go to college for art history. But in Europe, it seems like you're surrounded by culture. And so people are more open-minded for music. And so we were able to get a leg up in Europe easier because people were open.
Yeah.
And would you consider Swell to be a artsy band?
Oh,
For sure, I would definitely say so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Really?
Arty?
Oh,
It depends.
not
Sometimes that's
artsy posy,
No, no,
but
no, no.
it's a niche. It's a unique style that not everybody I think can connect to.
But because you guys got together in the late 80s or early 90s, that was the time of the
1989.
grunge. 89, yeah. The grunge was coming up in the early 90s also. You guys were kind of a weird type of
Yeah.
band, actually.
Well, we had started before Nirvana
Yeah.
made grunge a household name.
Yeah.
So we had no real connection, and we weren't that style. Though people tried to lump us into that whole thing, But yeah, we don't fit. I don't think we fit any category.
Because you said the art aspect is there. I think it's very cinematic.
For
the music.
sure.
And I got a certain David Lynch feeling when I was listening to it. The California type of vibe.
Yeah, definitely. David Freel went to film school.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Yeah, he was a film student at Santa Barbara, right? UC Santa Barbara.
Yep.
And so he was writing films, and he was starting to make films, and he realized, and he was scoring his own films, and he realized that his scores were better than his films. And so he just concentrated on the music instead of pursuing the film. And his fiancée, Jen, in Portland, told me the other day that she discovered a screenplay that he had written that no one's ever seen. So we're going to try to get somebody to work up that screenplay and see what it's
interesting.
like.
But David Freel passed away 2022,
Just last year, April 12th, almost to the day.
Gee, that's
Yeah.
big shoes to fill for the new singer that is.
Correct. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
how's he doing?
we've had 2 shows now, and the second show, of course, is an improvement on the first, and I think he's sounding pretty damn good.
Yeah, he's doing great. If you close your eyes, you probably think it's the old Swell.
Is there an urge or a feeling right now because you're working or how can I say that, reenacting
Revamping.
more of the old stuff? Is there a vibe coming of perhaps making new material?
We talked about it, but
Who knows?
that's baby steps.
Could be a stepping stone.
I mean,
to pick up
the
old
reason
work.
why we're doing this tour is as a tribute to David Freel, you know, and so we never really intended to be a band. We're trying to like rekindle. We're not trying to rekindle. We're just playing the songs that we wrote with David as a tribute in honor, you know. So every night is a memorial, really, and we're playing these old songs because they're the ones that are our favorites and the ones that we feel like epitomize the vibe of Swell and the atmosphere.
It feels like you're closing something. Also, you're closing the book. Is that perhaps too negative? To
No.
put it that way.
I don't know if closing is a term. It's just coming to grips with his passing and the fact that, you know, he was part of the mainstay of Swell, and it was a big part of my life and Monte's, and
Yeah.
it was just, I don't know, it just felt right. His death was obviously sad, you know, but we didn't want to let it just bury it. I think he was too talented and too complex to just let it fade out. So
Yeah.
And a lot of people who were fans, we get a lot of fan mail from people or people posting that they became fans after the band stopped being a band, and they're always asking, "What are you guys ever going to play? Would you ever play?" And so we were like, "Well, we kind of have to put it together and play some of these songs in a
Yeah.
few places and see what happens."
the irony of it all is that I'd say for the last 10 years, once or twice a year, I'd email David and say, hey, let's just do a European tour, man. You know, and he'd kind of him and haw about it and eventually say no. And then actually in 2017, we had a tour booked. And it
Yeah,
was
we
all-
tried.
We tried. It was all about Solidified. And then he said he pulled the rug from under it.
gee.
And he said no. But what I wanted to also say is that this wouldn't be happening if he were alive, you know?
No.
So as much as he may be, I don't know, not liking the fact that we're doing a tour, I think, sorry, David, we're doing it anyways, sort of thing, you know, because we love you and the music that we all created together.
Yeah, but it's something else. It's not nostalgia, I would say.
Definitely not.
It's,
I
it's
mean, not
paying
for me. I
tribute.
don't know how you feel.
No, paying tribute, more or less.
It's
Yeah.
tribute. Yeah. I mean, there's moments that feel nostalgic, you know. It's like, wow, I've played this song like 300 times, but the last time I played it was 30 years ago. You know?
You had careers outside of Swell, obviously, because it wasn't
Yeah.
going on continuously. And you're a visual artist,
Mhm.
and you're a producer also.
Yes.
And but I think your latest, I should say, first actually album that you did, the Haunted.
The World is Haunted, yeah.
There are some Swell elements in there too, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can't not play the drum style that I am, so I think you could hear that in there.
There's
Monte plays on a couple songs, of course, that's going to make it maybe a tad more swelly.
Yeah.
And I think the aspects of Swell that I really appreciated were the tension, the space, the mood.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that incorporates The World is Haunted.
You mentioned playing in Europe compared to playing in the USA. Isn't it hard to play in the USA because of the radio stations? That there are not that many national radio stations. That every state you have to conquer more or less. Is that
Yeah,
true?
well, college radio in the States is big, or was. I don't think
Was.
radio lives anymore.
KEXP?
I don't know what it's like in Europe.
Well, KEXP
Yeah.
rules.
Yes.
Yeah,
I could shout out to KEXP because I live in Seattle now.
of
and
course.
So
Yeah.
it's a big part of my life.
And KCRW,
Have
it's a
you?
big one.
College radio was a completely different thing in the 90s. I mean, there was no streaming. There was no internet, really. It was you had to find your music on the radio station. So you depended on your music director at a radio station in your college or whatever to curate
Yeah.
new music. And when the first album was done, the first Swell album, I was doing promotion. I was doing radio promotion, and I sent out 250 copies to radio, and it just took off. It did so well. It was like the perfect thing for the moment.
Yeah, the beginnings were kind of easy. Well, it was sort of, okay, initially David and I had met and tried to work something out for about a year, and we weren't quite connecting or finding what we wanted to do, our niche. And then I moved away. I went to Spain, northern Spain, and somehow found a job there. And David came to visit me, and we went to see the Pixies. And I didn't know the Pixies at the time. And David and I were just at a cafe, and we saw a poster on the wall that said, "Tomorrow night, Pixies at a small little village." And it was like, what? He was very surprised. So we went, and we were blown away, and we looked at each other. It was like serendipity. It's just like a light went on. Bam! We have got to make a record. So then he went back, and then I went home for the summer, and we made the first album.
Yeah.
And then Monte has been an old friend of mine. I know he was doing promotions, and as he said, he promoted the record.
You guys go back 40 years.
Is that long? God. Yes, we
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun. I guess. But were outside of that, were there other influences that you guys were drawn to?
You mean
musically?
Musically that comes through in the Swell music?
Yeah.
As a bass player, I was heavily influenced by dub, by even like Jaw Wobble, PIL.
Okay.
You know, I always loved the big, fat kind of, just groovy kind of linear kind of ostinato bass lines, and
then there
keeping
is
things simple but groovy.
Yeah, simple, groovy. And then there is this complicated drumming going on there also.
Well, that's why the bass can't be complicated.
Yeah, that's. Yeah. Is that true? Is that has to be in balance?
Of course.
Yeah, otherwise it'd just be a jumbled mess.
Same with the acoustic guitar strumming. It's crazy sometimes the way that David strummed. I mean, it's
very percussive.
so
you know?
percussive. It's like he's got 3 maracas in his hands, but it's a guitar, and so the bass has to like hold the drums and the guitar kind of together like a little glue in between.
But that being said, I also feel there's a lot of space in Swell. You know, where like less is more at times. Yes, David's often playing intensely, and sometimes I'm playing like 30-second notes and things, but I feel a lot of air, and I think that's due to the fact that David's sort of background in film, as you heard, and tension, and creating a dynamic.
But your drumming is very jazzy.
I mean, I grew up listening to a lot of old jazz and reggae, as Monte mentioned. He also loved like Carlton Barrett, the drummer for a lot of dub records, like us, the Public King Tubby, and even Bob Marley, of course. Huge influence. Playing what's not normal to me. As you mentioned earlier, Stuart Copeland, as huge as the Police are, I really respect Stuart Copeland. And I mean, I always say Jackie Liebezeit. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yaki, I guess.
Yeah,
Yaki.
just playing what's not typical was always important to me.
Right. What type of venues are you guys playing here in Europe? What type of...
I mean, size-wise?
Yeah, size-wise. And
last night was about 350.
Yeah, it's the Botanique
that's
in Brussels, the Orangerie, and this club here in Maastricht. This is about typical.
Yeah.
We're playing some smaller venues, in France a couple, and in Bielefeld, I think the Forum. But we're playing the kind of the typical 400 capacity.
And you won't be playing in the
clubs.
USA?
California, West Coast, potentially.
We're
take
looking
baby
at
steps.
Because we also have a lot of fans that we want to bring the tribute to, because people are asking, they want the catharsis also.
Get the feeling.
Especially in Portland, Oregon, where David lived, and his friends and his fiancée there, they really want us to play. And in Seattle, of course, we have to play in Seattle.
Okay.
Because then I can sleep at home that night.
But it's never been a real festival type of band, isn't it? Festival?
Oh, we played a lot of festivals in the past. Pukkelpop.
Oh, also, yeah.
Lowlands.
Not too far from here.
Rock Herc.
A couple big ones in France.
Big ones in France. The Eurokin and Saint-Malo.
With Bjork and ZZ Top. And
Gee.
We played with Aerosmith in Spain.
Oh.
Primavera. Festamad. Oh, we played a lot of festivals.
Yeah. We have fun with it.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah.
I think it's a really important thing for us and for fans, to get that feeling one more time.
And perhaps if it feels like more, perhaps there's a new project emerging somewhere.
We're not looking for that, but if something happened where that became a possibility, we would consider it. But we're not trying to reform Swell and make new records and things like that.
Let's focus on the here and now.
Focus on this is the memorial. the last thing we want is it to feel exploitive.
No.
Yeah, this has been enough of our attention and energy to just apply it to the tour and the dedication to David and how to make it unique and very David Freel-like, So I haven't had the capacity, brain space to actually even think beyond this.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
no.
this is emotionally draining.
Oh, yeah.
Every night it's
imagine.
really hard to play those songs.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting last night when we played Le Botanique. It hit me that, wow, there's all these people focusing on us, what we created over 29 years, 30 years ago. Granted, there were more records that came after the beginning, but they cared, and it just made me connect to David even that much more, because obviously he put his heart and soul into all this.
Yeah.
And so I really felt his presence. Did you feel?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
It's beautiful.
Okay, well, I think that's the best moment to stop now, I think.
Okay.
Having said that, that's great. Well, have fun on the road, and
We'll try.
we'll see you soon.
Yeah. We're looking forward to playing Holland. We always had fun here. It's a great country.
Well, thanks.